So we were done with this slide. Now we will start slide number 17 in endocrine system. So target cell must have specific receptors to bind a specific hormone. For example, adrenocorticotropic hormone released by anterior pituitary and binds to the receptors on certain cells of adrenal cortex. Thyroxine receptors are found in all the cells of the body. Target cell activation depends on three factors: blood level of the hormone and relative number of receptors in the target cell and affinity of binding between receptor and hormone. So actually, hormone release is controlled by negative feedback. If the vary within narrow desirable, so level of hormone in normal situation is maintained in our body in the narrow limits. Stimulated to synthesize, release in now. So there are three stimulus which stimulate the release of the hormones. Humoral stimulus. As the name says, humoral, level of nutrient or ion in the blood will cause the release of the hormone. For example, insulin is released when the level of glucose is high in the blood. That is humoral stimulus. Neural stimulus. Some hormones are released when we are under stress. For example, epinephrine, norepinephrine are released when we are under stress. That is neural stimulus. Hormonal stimulus. Hormonal stimulus means some hormones needs the presence of other hormones to be released, and that is known as hormonal stimulus. So humoral stimulus, we said, changing blood level of ions or nutrients, like changing the blood level, like calcium. As the level of calcium goes down in the blood, parathyroid gland releases parathyroid hormone. And parathyroid hormone brings the level of calcium back to normal. So you see here, these are the parathyroid gland, and as the level of calcium goes down in the blood, parathyroid gland releases parathyroid hormone and it brings the level of calcium back to the normal. Neural stimulus, like nerve fibers, sympathetic nerve fibers, we are under stress, adrenal medulla releases epinephrine and norepinephrine. So you see here, we are under stress and this is the adrenal medulla and it will release epinephrine and norepinephrine. Hormonal stimulus, for example, other endocrine organs to release their hormone. Hypothalamus stimulate the release of the anterior pituitary hormone, or it inhibit actually the activity of anterior pituitary, so that is hormonal stimulus. So now this is the hypothalamus and this is the anterior pituitary. So hypothalamus stimulate the anterior pituitary. As it stimulates the anterior pituitary releases thyroid hormone and adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and those hormones stimulate these glands. So it is known as hormonal stimulus. Nervous system modifies stimulation of endocrine glands by negative feedback. Example under severe stress, hypothalamus and sympathetic nervous system are activated. Due to the increased release of epinephrine and norepinephrine, actually these hormones work on liver cells, and in the liver the stored glycogen is broken, more glucose is released in the blood when we are under stress. Nervous system can also override endocrine control. Hormones in the blood. So this is important to understand. Hormones circulate in the blood, and they circulate into two forms: free hormones and bind to carrier protein hormones. So steroid and thyroid hormones, they are bound to plasma proteins. The other hormones circulate freely in the blood. So the one which circulate freely in the blood, they are removed quickly from the blood. The steroid and thyroid hormones which are attached to the plasma proteins, they stay longer in the blood. Blood concentration of a hormone reflects rate of release of the hormone. So concentration of the hormone in the blood at any time will reflect two things. What is the rate of the release of the hormone, and what is the rate of inactivation and removal. For example, rate of inactivation for the free hormones is higher. So how the hormones are removed? By degradation enzymes. So these enzymes are released by kidney and liver, and they remove the hormones from the blood actually. So each hormone, half-life. So what is the half-life? Half-life is time for blood level to decrease by 1/2. That means how long it will take to decrease the level of a hormone in half actually. That is known as half-life. It can be minute, hours, days or year, like that. It can take minutes, hours or something like that. So some responses are immediate and some responses are immediate, like the hormones responses. Some may take hours or days. For example, follicle stimulating hormone take long time. Duration may be limited and it ranges from several hours to several seconds to several hours for hormonal activity. So the hormones will may disappear as blood level drop, but effect may persist. So like these hormones, follicle stimulating hormone, the range takes from 10 seconds to several hours. Now, inactivation of hormones at target cells. Multiple hormones may act on the same target cell at the same time. So this is how the hormones interact. Permissiveness. One hormone cannot exert its effect without another hormone. So like permission. So for example, we have follicle stimulating hormone which causes the development of the ovaries in females and testes in males. But follicle stimulating hormone also needs the presence of thyroid hormone for the proper development of the reproductive organ. So permissiveness. Synergism. More than one hormone produce same effect. So for example, glucagon and epinephrine, they are synergistic. When they are present at the same time, glucagon and epinephrine, they will increase the level of glucose in the blood 150%. So that is synergism. Antagonism, oppose action. Like insulin and glucagon are known as antagonistic hormones because insulin decreases the level of calcium in the blood, whereas glucagon increases the level of glucose in the blood. So they are antagonistic. Now the pituitary gland act. So pituitary gland is located in the sella tertia of the skull and it is connected to hypothalamus of the brain. Pituitary gland has two lobes, posterior pituitary and anterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary has the axons which are coming from the hypothalamic neurons. That's why it is known as neural tissue. Anterior pituitary, known as adenohypophysis, it is mainly glandular epithelial tissue. Posterior pituitary is known as hypothalamic, is known as in posterior pituitary, hypothalamus sends the axons in the posterior lobe. So it has a neural connection with the hypothalamus. And those hypothalamic neurons, they release oxytocin and ADH hormone in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. So they are known as neurohormones. So they are synthesized by the hypothalamic neurons and they are transported and stored in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. So see here, this is the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland and these are the neurons and they synthesize the oxytocin and ADH and then they release in the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary actually has a vascular connection with hypothalamus. Anterior pituitary has hypophyseal portal system. So what the hypophyseal portal system include? It include a primary capillary plexus which will supply to hypophyseal portal vein and hypophyseal portal vein will supply to secondary capillary plexus. So this is the hypophyseal portal system, connection between the two capillary bed through the portal vein. That is hypophyseal portal system, and this system carry releasing and inhibiting hormones to anterior lobe of pituitary gland. So see here, this is the hypothalamus, this is the anterior pituitary, and here is the actually hypophyseal portal system. We have a primary capillary plexus, secondary capillary plexus, and these are the portal vein. So hypothalamus releasing hormone and inhibiting hormone in the anterior pituitary. So you see, in response to releasing hormone, the anterior pituitary secretes the hormones. Hypothalamic hormones, they travel through the portal veins. So what is a portal system?